And finally, he joked about himself being a sort of anti-raw milk Karen by tweeting a picture of milk and saying, "At the grocery store conducting my weekly milk surveillance, if I see any gross raw milk for sale, I immediately call the police."
Coward.
And somebody responded to that saying, "Dude got his shit take roasted by half the internet and has to cope with comedy now."
And that was the super anti-Semitic account too. Even the racists are laughing at you. Like, I mean, he's right. Like, he's not often right, but this was the one where his own fans lost their shit over.
Some evil sorcery, it just kills the dangerous bacteria, you morons. That's the tweet that set them off. And look, as much as it pains me to say this, Matt Walsh is correct about this. I mean, obviously, right? And look, 5 years ago, this wouldn't even be controversial, but since people in this country have grown increasingly conspiratorial about everything from chemtrails to vaccines.
It's because of the science worshipping. I think that's so wild because the guy is deeply unscientific. He always pushes Christian nonsense. And then the few times where he's actually like, oh, by the way, yeah, this statement I'm about to make is actually scientifically accurate. Immediately his own audience is like, what the fuck? Don't you know the pasteurization makes the 5G secret waves control you?
Scenes. It was only a matter of time before that mindset expanded to other areas as well. And now it's to the point where people are questioning basic public health recommendations that we've all followed for all of our lives. You know, today it's pasteurized milk. Tomorrow it might be something else. They might reject germ theory. Who knows where this is going to go, but it's incredibly dangerous. And part of this stems from stupidity for sure, but it's also due to a lack of trust in government and institutions. And I'm sympathetic towards that position because skepticism towards the government is necessary since they've lied to us so many times about so many things. But that skepticism has now morphed.
It's what his audience craves. It's his own fault. I completely agree. Yes, let them fight. Let the leopards drink the delicious breast milk.
Into outright contrarianism to the point where they just deliberately do the opposite of what government tells them to do because they think that automatically makes what they're doing correct. So if the FDA recommends you only drink pasteurized milk, then they assume they should do the opposite and drink unpasteurized milk, not only because that's safer, but actually good. I mean, it's just not a very healthy way of thinking, and just because you're skeptical of what the government is saying doesn't automatically make it right. The problem here is that these people fundamentally misunderstand the role of government and why they lied to us about certain things in the first place. And I think that the Cavernacle put it best when he made a video about this back in June.
Yes, people have a right, especially Americans, to be skeptical of the food they eat and how much absolute garbage is put in it and how there's a lack of regulations because of corporate influence on the government. It doesn't mean you should go out seeking stuff that is far riskier to consume just because it hasn't gone through the government regulation and you think somehow that might be better. People don't have the critical thinking skills. They're not taught to have them in school because sadly most people's brains don't work like that as adults. They can't believe both things. It's either the government is designing food for profit, therefore the government is bad, big dairy is bad, and they're selling me crap just for money because, I don't know, let's say in this instance, because they think pasteurizing the milk is somehow cheaper or something, or there's some financial benefit to do this, and that's why they're doing it, and that's why the government are lying to you. They're lying to you for profit. And again, it goes with the vaccine things. When you see the absurd profits of pharmaceutical companies, you start thinking, oh, well, they must start epidemics to solve them just to make loads of money, not realizing that the world is a complicated place and many things come into play. That yes, pharmaceutical companies.
Multiple things can be true at once. Like vaccine and vaccine technology is a beautiful thing that has helped stop and prevent mass death on a scale of which like the people who are opposing vaccines can't dream of, you know, where it's like, and pharmaceutical companies are very, very evil. Two things can be true at once.
Can be like literally evil when I believe they are at the same time in terms of the global economy and in terms of
the financial benefit is consumers aren't dying on monstrous scales, or at least on less monstrous scales. There's the financial benefit so they can consume more and buy more stuff. There's your conspiracy.
Under capitalism, creating something like a vaccine that doesn't work or has absolutely terrible side effects is not in the financial best interest of the capitalist class, so you can trust in that greed that they probably won't do that. Sometimes they will do that, but you have to appreciate that fact. But that is hard for most people. That's how people go down conspiracy theory rabbit holes. And because we don't have a trust in the institutions anymore, because of things like capitalism, and we see how much capitalism and corporations control our government, we feel like we cannot trust any of them.
Yeah, and he's exactly correct, which is usually the case when it comes to the cavern.
And that's like where I think a lot of the Jimmy Dore kind of entire business model stems from, is that like you take something that is true, big pharma fucking sucks, and then you add conspiracy theories because they're funner. It makes everyone feel as if they're the smartest person in the room, and suddenly it's like, well, yeah, did you know that those vaccines are actually causing mass death? Brains turn to goo, they give you 5G radiation and all this other shit, terrible for you. It's like, well, that none of that is true. They can be evil independent of the fact that the vaccines have been proven, because they've been used on a mass scale. Billions of doses have been given out to be very safe and effective in relation to how bad COVID can be and how bad, like, a lot of the side effects from long COVID especially can be.
Unless we're talking about his opinion on video games and Dark Souls, then he's always wrong. But that's a different story for a different day. I will link you to that video that he posted down below if you really want to go safely down the raw milk rabbit hole, because it is so much deeper than you realize. And I had no idea that this was a thing until I watched that video. But to his point, people
5G turns the milk gay, true, which in turn turns people gay. That's how it works.
People have a difficult time figuring out what evidence to accept because their standard for evidence is very low. Because a lot of us,
like, I was told by conservatives when I was in the US last time that McDonald's is working in direct conjunction, as is most fast food, with doctors in order to get more clientele into hospitals, because in so doing, they will directly profit from people who have diabetes and obesity and other stuff like that. And I was like, they don't need to be directly correlated. That's where you're adding a narrative that just isn't true, right? It can be that fast food companies are pushing really unhealthy food on you because it's highly addictive. That's why it's so delicious. That's why we all crave it when we see ads for it, or even think about it right now. Me invoking it alone is probably making some people hungry because, again, all of our dopamine is like, oh, yes, that's a really fast release right there, right? Even if it's not healthy. I know it's not good for me, but oh, goddamn, I want that instant release, that quick fix kind of thing. That can be independent of the fact that, yes, when someone goes into a hospital for, say, heart complications related to being overweight or hyper obesity, or if they contract type 2 diabetes later in life, that is something they will have to get treated for. Those can be two separate things, completely independent of each other.
Don't know any better. We're not experts on everything. So if somebody on TikTok who claims to be a dietitian and a wellness expert that looks healthy tells you to do something, well, you might want to listen to them just because it seems legit and they look legit, but really you have no way of knowing whether or not what they're telling you is complete bullshit.
Fast food doesn't want to make you obese. That's just a side effect of making addictive foods. Yeah, like no one wants a product that en masse causes either obesity, death, that kind of stuff. What they want is people to continue to consume and buy their products. So they are choosing and opting to make them more addictive as a result. And that's the reason behind so much processed food being so terrible for you. You don't need them directly working in partnership with the medical system for that to be true, right? Like there doesn't need to be a conspiracy where it's like, and that's why doctors on the other end make even more money because they're working in conjunction with each other. It's like, well, no, fast food doesn't need to have a partnership with the hospitals for that.
Shit, right? So most people will hear that and they'll just choose to believe it or not believe it. But the problem is that a lot of people don't take the time to responsibly research what these people are saying that they're listening to. And to put it as cynically as possible for the people who are skeptical about raw milk, the government doesn't want you to be sick, right? The government does not want you to be sick from COVID or from listeria. This is why they recommend vaccinations. This is why they tell you to not drink unpasteurized milk. And the reason why it's cynical is because they want you to be healthy so you can work, right? It's in the interest of the capitalist class to have a population that is healthy and not sick, because if they're sick, they can't work. The economy grinds to a halt. So if you don't trust the government, think of it in those terms, right? But basic public health recommendations are not a conspiracy. We learned a very long time ago that there are dangers associated with drinking raw milk. In fact, a couple of weeks after Cav posted that video in June, a salmonella outbreak was linked to a farm in Fresno, California that sells raw milk. 22 people got so sick that they were hospitalized, including a 9-year-old boy who was given raw milk by his mother. And we're really only seeing the tip of the iceberg because, as Dr. Karen Landman of Vox explains, raw milk sales have exploded and have gone up by 65% since this trend got popular among the online right and was pushed by so-called wellness influencers on.
And that's kind of the scary thing, is that like a lot of the woo, when people try to sell you on unscientific things that aren't, you know, tested through the scientific process, not all of it is going to be directly harmful to you. It's probably not too harmful for you to put like a wristband with a magnet inside it. It's not going to do anything that they're telling you it's going to do, or to drink ionized water, for example, right? It's not going to, like, wearing the magnets and then putting crystals and having a crystal skull in your home is most likely not going to make you vomit uncontrollably unless the crystal is possessed by the Dark Lord Satan. But pending that, you'll be fine. But in this case, yeah, drinking raw milk can make you sick. Same thing with like
we tout the benefits of drinking raw milk, but these
worm
claims
medicine
that they're
for
making
dogs
are
or
either
horses as a
false
human
or misleading. For example, raw milk evangelists will tout the additional vitamins that you get from drinking.
Oh yeah, it is not a uniquely right-wing thing. There are liberal woo peddlers. There are even leftist woo peddlers. I mean, that's what fucking Jimmy Dore is essentially, right? There's people who sell people on unsubstantiated, unscientific cures and holistic medicines and stuff like that, because in desperation, people can be looking for anything, right? And it does sound, and like, I understand the people who do some of it in the harmless way, where it's just like, oh, you know, if my kids got sick, I would take them to a doctor. But for me personally, it may not do anything. But I just feel better having, you know, a wristband when I go traveling that has a magnet in it, because it may be a placebo effect, but it helps me, and so like I'm going to keep doing it, right? Like that's on the harmless end of the spectrum, all the way over to people who actually push stuff that can harm you, and push things that are dangerous. It's the difference between someone who goes to a psychic just for a fun reading with some friends, just like, yeah, I don't know if I believe it, but I got my tarot cards and everything, and then afterwards it's fine, to a person who actively tries to conjure up dead relatives. Like that person is so fundamentally fucked and profoundly evil to try and profit off other people's suffering and misery and pretend as if they themselves are communicating with their dead relatives and they're passing the messages on from the great beyond and stuff like that. And you really got to come back because it was such an emotional experience. Why not speak to one of your dead relatives whenever you want on call? You can just do it through me. You know, I'm capable of channeling that side. Like that's where you get into like, well, that is just so profoundly fucked.
Unpasteurized milk. But as Dr. Karen Landman explains in that article, you know, yes, it's true that pasteurizing milk does lead to a minor decrease in vitamins like vitamin C, for example. The problem is that milk was never a good source of vitamin C in the first place. And if you want more vitamin C, there's far more less risky ways to get more vitamin C. So I say all this to say, please don't drink raw milk. It's dangerous.
Like an orange. If you eat an orange, you will get a lot of vitamin C. They're cheap. You can find them in a lot of stores. Go try an orange. Yes.
Dangerous. And I'm telling you all of this now before I show you the pushback Matt Walsh received, so that way you are not persuaded by these bogus claims that these unhinged idiots, you know, are going to make. Not to say that my audience wouldn't know, but, you know, if you're just somebody who doesn't watch the Humanist Report, bad decision, you should subscribe. But if you don't know any better and you haven't seen me debunking these conspiracy theories before, you might not know any.
I don't understand why adults eat cereal. Oh man, I used to love cereal as a kid, but then when I got older, I just took one look at the average box and I was like, wait, what the fuck? I've been eating 2 packs of Skittles in every bowl. But these ones aren't supposed to have sugar in them. They're just supposed to be like wheat crisps and things like that. What the fuck? Why is there so much sugar? Where are you hiding it? Where are you putting this much sugar? Like even in that, like, okay, Frosted Flakes, you can tell. You're like literally every single flake is covered in sugar. But what about just the regular ones? What about the ones that aren't like just covered in, they're not as great, but like, shouldn't they just be like kind of sugar free? But it's like, oh no, those are fucking fuckloaded with sugar as well. What? Raisin Bran? Yep. Lots of sugar and raisin bread. That's supposed to be the healthy one. The 2 scoops of raisin and the whole wheat flakes and everything. Why is there so much sugar in it? Like, where are you putting it is my question.
Better. So if you don't know any better, trust me, everything you're about to see
the raisins do
from
have
these
sugar
people, is bullshit. But without further ado, here's how they responded to Matt Walsh when he told them to not drink raw milk. Of course, there was anti-Semitism, because why wouldn't there be? Quote, "I'll keep doing the opposite of whatever the Rothschilds forced everyone to do to their food." Okay. This person with a doctor in this title who pays for Twitter says, "Raw milk is good and healthy. Cheers." Sounds legit. Enjoy the salmonella, bud. You've been convinced of this by the same experts who have been wrong about every other issue they weigh in on. This person says, "You mean the stuff we were consuming for thousands of years before you came around and said it was scary?" Right, and then we
used to live in raw sewage. Come on. Like advances in human society and technology are good things, actually. I'm not even being as extreme as like someone who's like, hey, by the way, you should probably do what Europe does and like radiate the milk, or you should probably do, but you should have safety standards, like just even agreeing to safety standards. And it's not taking your freedom away to not give you violent diarrhea. You know, like, oh, I want my freedom. I want my titty juice. My titty juice. I want it unadulterated. I want it straight from the titty, and I want to drink it. And it's like, okay, but you do understand in doing so you might get sick. You run a risk of potentially getting sick from this process.
Realized why people were getting randomly sick for thousands of years and decided to stop letting that happen once we learned that pasteurizing milk stops this. This person basically said the same thing, but shared an AI-generated image of a caveman drinking raw milk to bolster his argument, I guess. But I mean, the caveman has 2 thumbs, and maybe he got that from drinking raw milk, so you've been warned. This person says, "This is where Matt Walsh is wrong. Raw milk, if done properly, is safe and healthier than processed milk, except the way to do it properly is to boil it and kill the germs. So no, it can't be done properly." This person says, "I've been drinking raw milk for the last 3 years across 3 different states."
Are you flexing about it? "I've tasted the titty from at least 3 different kinds of cow." That's freedom.
Washington, Utah, and Arizona, it's a vastly superior product to the normal store-bought stuff. And
that's the other funny part. Like, can you boil it at least? Can you extract it and then boil it and then refrigerate it? Could you do that, or is that not freedom? That is not enough freedom. It's got to be straight from the source. You got to just like put your lips right on the titty and get drinking.
Get this. Sitting Republican lawmaker Thomas Massey chimed in saying, "Bad take. I've consumed raw milk almost every day for over 2 years. It's done wonders for my health, and it's delicious. Pasteurization and homogenization can kill germs, but they both diminish the health benefits of the milk. In any case, it's everyone's right to consume it." And for those who weren't aware of this, Thomas Massey was a
ew, why is this? This doesn't look healthy. This looks like butter.
pretty big raw milk guy before this, which sounds like a weird statement to say. But just to show you what I mean, on June 1st, he tweeted a picture of some raw milk in his fridge with the hashtag
"Come and take it." See, again, this is one of those things where I'm not on the other side of this. I'm not trying to take your titty juice away, but I'm just saying you're gonna get sick. You're all gonna like. We used to die of dysentery. It used to be a pretty common way to go, you know, just dying of dysentery. We figured out ways to try and avoid that. We've come a long way.
"Come and take it." So,
ooh, baby, I like it raw.
I've gotta say, it's already weird enough that he's drinking raw milk and irresponsibly encouraging his followers to do the same. But to make your love of raw milk your entire personality is just so extra. Like, I'm old enough to remember a time when people wouldn't base their entire identities off of the weird shit that they do. I mean, if you want to take horse paste and, you know, shit out half your intestines, that's fine. But keep that shit to yourself, man. But, you know, the story doesn't end here.
And also don't spread it to, like, the innocent, you know? Like, if this is just something that you and your family do for whatever strange reasons, just don't go onto a podcast and then tell other people that it's medically sound to do the strange, fucked up shit you do, you know? I'm not even trying to get into your house. I'm not trying to get into your personal weird, you know, titty juice fucking fixation. But, like, once you go onto a Joe Rogan or you go onto a fucking, you know, PBS or any of those other big-ass podcasts and start being like, raw milk is actually incredibly healthy. It's dangerous for you to drink, you know, milk that has been pasteurized. It's dangerous for you to drink milk that's been boiled or treated or anything. You should be getting it direct from the source. I would just take your, you know, your lips and put them straight on the teat and then just start sucking, because that's the best way to get all the vital nutrients, especially vitamin C, which is the thing that we need the most from milk because we can't get it any other way. Like, once you start doing it like in that, there's probably going to be a percentage of the people listening who are going to be like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. I've been living a lie. I've been drinking the bad milk. Didn't know that, so I'm going to go out and try and seek out this new form of enjoying my vitamins.
Because Matt Walsh was seemingly taken aback by the response from the audience that he cultivated, by the way, and he decided to double down and argue with them. So he responded to somebody
This is double-digit IQ logic. Anyone who starts bringing out IQ, immediately like, here we go, fucking
making
caliper
the
time.
argument others made that humans did this forever until relatively recently, and he replied saying, "This is 85 IQ logic, truly stupid. Many basic hygiene and sanitation practices were not invented until the last century or so. Surgeons didn't even start washing their hands until the 1870s. People died all the time from preventable..."
Oh my god, Matt Walsh, apply this to any other field of modern science that you continuously are on the other side of. I'm sorry, you don't get to pretend to be Mr. Science Man out of nowhere, and then when someone's like, hey, by the way, it's been shown that like over 99% of people who experience gender-affirming care have positive results, it's definitely a valid form of healthcare, and then being like, no, this is mutilation, this is child, torture, and I'm dedicating my life to destroying it, dedicating my life to making sure that all these criminal doctors and surgeons and every major medical association in the United States agrees with me and me alone. And it's like, well, but in this case, you suddenly are turning on your brain. And like in this case, it's suddenly like, washing hands is a good thing, actually. Just having aqua systems alone really did improve the quality of life between different generations of societies. And you can definitely see a noticeable difference, say, within the sewage and water systems of ancient Rome, and how that has a big benefit to society to not just have people living in their own feces. Yes, I agree. Do the rest now.
Germs and bacteria for thousands of years. Yeah, and this is obvious. Somebody also thought that they were making a good point by saying that human breast milk isn't pasteurized, to which he responded saying, humans are not farm animals. They don't live in barns. They don't lie around in dirt and shit all day. Do I need to continue listing differences between human beings and livestock, or is that enough? You can tell that he's getting frustrated here. Now, somebody else said, if raw milk is so inherently dangerous, why doesn't it kill baby calves? My IQ is 160.
I love that. I have been tested many times online, all right? I've taken the online tests. I know my IQ is triple digit. You cannot stop me. There's no way you have a 160 IQ with reasoning like this. But that is really funny. After saying something so ridiculous. If raw milk is so bad, why doesn't it kill baby calves? That's like being, hey, if poison is so dangerous to humans, why doesn't it kill snakes? Ever think about that? The snakes seem fine, so I just don't think poison is a real thing.
Like they said that. He responded to that saying, that's like asking why you can't eat raw poultry since coyotes do. There is no way you have a 160 IQ with reasoning like that.
Yeah, Big Snake got to me. I got taken over by Big Snake.
His audience who thinks that it's perfectly reasonable to eat raw meat all the time. Now, a self-proclaimed health nut and conspiracy theorist chimed in saying, Matt, you published articles telling people to get the COVID shots that you received, and you were wrong. And he responded to that saying, I never once wrote any article pushing the COVID shot or saying that I'd gone.
This is the most, like, this is what I'm talking about. You can't have it both ways. You can't be like, hey, by the way, it's a good thing to actually listen to the new discoveries that human beings have done, especially using the scientific method, double-blind studies and stuff. And we've learned over years and years and years that, yes, everything from basic hygiene to penicillin, right, do help reduce the amount of humans who get sick and die, stuff like that. But when it comes to, like, the COVID shot, suddenly it's like, oh, I would never do that. I do not support the COVID shot.
It myself. It's really not that serious. No need to stoop this low. By the way, the anti-vax to raw milk pipeline is probably a thing that happens.
Oh, sure.
But anyway, somebody responded to that with a issue of an article that he tweeted, which encourages people to take the COVID-19 vaccines. But he pointed out that he actually didn't write that article and was just sharing an article that's
double cuck
somebody else had written. But I think that that response is indicative of a deeper issue here. Rather than insisting that he was actually right about the COVID-19 vaccines and they were wrong and still are wrong, instead, he's choosing to run away from that position and pretend like he didn't tepidly encourage people to take the vaccines because the right has just collectively agreed that vaccines are bad, and if you say that they're good, then I guess you're a traitor to them. So he's basically cowering in fear to his audience.
But honestly, like, as bad as it is, there also should be some kind of a conservative or Republican or outreach program, you would think, to try and get more people not to die from your policies. Like, if you happen to be a conservative or Republican who, and that includes many of them, by the way, who are vaccinated and understand the importance of vaccines and how it has allowed for a lot of, post-COVID society to return to normal, that you would actually go forward and be like, hey, by the way, this is just resulting in our own voter base dying. You can see demonstrably between blue states, red states, the amount of hospitalization, the amount of serious, long-term COVID illnesses, all that. They seem to be decidedly along party lines. And the more red state you are, the less people are vaccinated and less people are going to seek out and get boosters or more vaccines. Shouldn't you identify that as a problem? Shouldn't you be like, maybe all of our pundit class shouldn't be pushing lies, especially when a lot of them are vaccinated? They're hypocrites. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. There's demonstrable visual evidence that they themselves are vaccinated because they were in areas in which they could not enter unless they were, so they got vaccinated and they didn't die. And yet they keep saying that there is like this horrifying conspiracy where the vaccines are actually just bioengineered to be able to control you and profit off you, and then it's the collusion with the libs and the Dems and all this stuff.
But I mean, what if raw milk becomes a bigger thing on the right in a couple of years, and every right-winger now is saying, actually, you have to drink raw milk, otherwise you're not a real right-winger, you're a sellout, or they're going to attack you for it. If that becomes an unpopular opinion in a couple of years, will he still say it? I mean, it's a genuine...
Like, look at this. Look at this. COVID, it didn't go away. There's very high levels of it being showing up in water levels. A map shows some recent SARS-CoV-2 water waste viral activity levels for each U.S. state. Click on the individual states for more detailed information. More than 30 states have detected very high levels of the virus. Like, that's not good. It's still very much a thing.
Question, and this is part of the problem, Matt. This is why conspiracy theorists are flocking to your channel like flies on shit. It's because rather than debunking their bullshit, I mean, you coddle them. You try to placate them.
Or you want to profit off it, right? You just want to bring in more members of your audience. And then, yeah, well, by the way, I know that I've described myself as a lifelong leftist and, enemy of both the Republican and Democratic Party alone. But I have also realized that the COVID vaccine does turn your brain into goo. And people lied about it. And the world needs to know. So that's going to be my thing now. And then I guess if this is the next one, if just like... en masse, the right and tons of right-wingers are now just suddenly going to say, by the way, it's low T, beta, and soy. If you go out, you are literally cucking yourself by drinking pasteurized milk or milk that's been boiled or treated in any way. So you got to drink it straight from the source. It's got to be warm and right out of the tit. There's no such thing as even cold milk anymore. We're going for warm, unpasteurized, unradiated, unboiled, untreated milk straight from the titty. It is going to result in mass diarrhea. That's going to be mass E. coli outbreaks amongst right-wingers and right-wing sections and like right-wing corners of the internet. I feel as if this is one of those ones that could go so bad that maybe it'll just have the reverse effect where so many people are just going to be puking and shitting and they're going to be like, something's up here. I don't know what it is. And it's probably because you're low T. Like real men, alphas, they don't get sick.
Just tell them the truth. Tell them that they're wrong. And you might be thinking, well, Mike, isn't he already doing this with regard to raw milk? So give him some.
Conservatives should try raw pork. The government hates it. It's true. Those communists, those commies who try to regulate meat have been trying to have safety standards and lower the rates of E. coli by putting in all kinds of things, chlorine treatment, stuff like that. Hey, by the way, why even cook it, right? I mean, that seems kind of cucked in and of itself. I mean, fucking cavemen, paleo diet, they were just eating raw meat. I mean, hey, if you're going to all start doing it en masse, what could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
Some credit, right? To that I say, first and foremost, no, we never have to hand it to Matt Walsh for any reason ever. But second of all, take a guess as to how you think this saga ended. Do you think that he was as vociferous in his defense of pasteurized milk by the end of this? Not really, I would argue, because he tried to smooth things over and he tried to, post a little bit of self-deprecating humor about this after realizing how pissed they were. But, it didn't go too well. So let me show you what I mean. He tweeted, "I've discovered that passions are quite high around the topic of milk. Now just wait till you hear my take on orange juice. I have many scandalous beverage-related opinions." Ooh, can't wait to hear that. He also said, "Am I really trending over the raw milk thing? Come on, guys. There's no way my milk opinions qualify as one of the top 20 most interesting things happening in the world today. Top 100, maybe." And finally, he joked about himself being a sort of anti-raw milk Karen by tweeting a picture of milk and saying, "At the grocery store conducting my weekly milk surveillance, if I see any gross raw milk for sale, I immediately call the police." And somebody responded to that saying, "Dude got his shit take roasted by half the internet and has to cope with comedy now." So needless to say,
and that was the super anti-Semitic account too. Even the racists are laughing at you.
They are fucking pissed, and they will never forgive him for daring to say that raw milk is dangerous. Listen, this is why you don't pander to insane people. Otherwise, this is the kind of following you cultivate. Let this be a lesson for anyone else who wants to become a political commentator, who has a YouTube channel. If you do not try to control, the audience that you are curating, they will control you at some point. If you let these conspiracy theories run amok in your community, common sense takes become too controversial, and you can't let that happen. But one last thing that I will say about this is that I kind of feel like this is something.
Omega Star, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, what's also kind of strange to me is that like I have disagreements, with people in my chat all the time, but overwhelmingly, like I am like it's a wholesome and very pleasant experience to see that as the channel has grown, right? Like we've got about 1,000 people watching between YouTube and Twitch right now. The majority of people who like eventually gravitate towards watching you or enjoying your takes or stuff like that, they also reflect a lot of your own beliefs and values. And then there are people who might have similar like senses of humor to you, as well as people who kind of like, yes, do believe in the scientific method and do believe in having food safety standards and things like that. So it'd be very strange to me if I was all of a sudden like, hey, by the way, I know they're trying to scare you about vaccines, but like the vaccines can be life-saving, and then just to have the thing flood with people being like, fucking liar, you betrayed us, we believed in you, you were everything to us, and now you try to put the goo, the 5G, the magneto juice inside of our veins. Like I would be like, whoa, wait, what the fuck? Like, where's this all coming from? Why? No, I thought we were all on the same page as this. Oh, okay, it turns out that I guess didn't really know my audience, or maybe it's just one of those things where Matt Walsh wants to be unscientific in so many categories and now is kind of astounded to find out what that comes with. It's like, well, oh, okay, well, I mean, maybe it is something to be said about hating on vaccines is going to bring the raw milk crowd out.
That Elon Musk would be into, and I have no evidence that that's the case, but it's just something that I feel he would be into. So we'll see. But in the end, there's only so much that you can do to inform people and make them aware of what is or isn't in their best interest. And
right.
If they still refuse to listen, all we can do is our best. And at least we could say we tried, right? But I'm to the point where I'm not going to waste my breath arguing with these people again and again and again.
I agree with Lance on about 93% of things, so I guess that's close enough for me to be out to be mean. Well, no, I mean, like, obviously, you're going to have disagreements with any group of people, even if you're all leftists, or any group of people, even if you're all, like, progressive or whatever that is, on, like, policy issues. What's the best way to go about this? If you want to achieve abolition, should we go down this road? Should we put more time into doing this over this? Stuff like that. But when it's, like, just fundamentally agreeing in scientific discovery, that's something that once you accept, you kind of just have to accept across the board. You don't get to pick and choose when you're like, yeah, by the way, we've learned a thing through doing multiple studies internationally across the world, double-blind studies. We've really figured this thing out. We know how magnets work. We're quite actually, like, it's not really a mystery to us anymore. As humans, we're actually very, very aware of how magnets work, opposing forces, polarity, all that kind of stuff. We know, we get it. So it would be really weird for someone to be like, magnets are magic, put by the angels to control us. I'd be like, wait, what? But I agree with you on everything else, Lance. 95% of your takes I agree with. But magnets are made by angels and gods come. I'd be like, wait, what? Well, that seems like it's just like a fundamental pillar of understanding reality that we seem to be very, very juxtaposed on.
Because I tried to convince people that the COVID vaccines were good, especially when they were available and free and people were dying when they didn't need to. And, I got attacked for it. A lot of people got attacked for it, for trying to do what's in their best interest. So I'll always give you the facts and debunk these conspiracy theories. But if you want to be dumb and you want to drink raw milk.
So Zad, today's the day I found out Lance's magnet cucked. It's true. Big magnet got me a long time ago.
I have nothing else to say to you. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise, but I will leave you with these wise words from comedian Scott Seiss.
I'm not going to get the vaccine, then die. What do we do, argue with you? I'm not on the debate team. This isn't mock trial. Aren't you worried about the side effects? I'm worried about the disease. They're tracking you through the microchip. They're tracking you through the phone you're watching this on. Get the vaccine.
Oh man, that guy's funny. He makes me laugh.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/the Serfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincel, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.